Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Alliance Bernstein. Since 2019, employees have impacted our community by giving more than 5,000 hours of volunteerism in Middle Tennessee. AllianceBernstein.com. Alliance Bernstein is not affiliated with National Public Radio.
I'm Khalil Ekalona, and this is Nashville. Do you have a garden? If so, what are you growing? Basil or rosemary? How about some tomatoes? Whether you're a veteran with a green thumb or just dipping your toe in, gardening can be a great way to feed yourself and your community. But it does a lot more than that. Later this hour, we'll talk about community gardens with a few folks tending them, and we'll learn just how they can serve the public in ways beyond nourishment. All right, so most of my life has been spent in cities or the suburbs. I've been to farms, but know very little about life on one. Honestly, I'm intrigued about what it would be like to live and work on a farm. Going to bed early and getting up before the dawn, there's a calming energy about that thought. There's a farm not too far from here where that schedule is reality. Last year, we sent our then intern, Doreen Chernecki, to see what a typical day is like on Hanicity Farm out in Pegram.
You might have heard that roosters crow at the break of dawn. Out on Hanicity Farm in Pegram, it's an all-day thing.
Sometimes they just do it. Sometimes it is a warning. So sometimes you will see me like, what are y'all doing that for?
That's Ashley Beard. She tends the farm. It's about 16 acres. They've got guineas, quail, chickens, and ducks. Ashley's new here, but she knows her way around.
They're my babies. They're messy. Be mindful of your head stepping in.
With all of these birds come a lot of eggs in all shapes and colors.
Guinea eggs are like a peach color, and they're speckled. And then you have some that are green, some that are just this deep brown, and they're so gorgeous. I think those are Americana, and they're like, when I say deep brown, like deep, gorgeous, like almost like a mahogany brown, and it's the entire egg, just one color, and it's so pretty. And then you have like the duck eggs that are just ginormous. And we have had a couple of guinea eggs that look literally like dinosaur eggs because they're like this big. We're like, why is it so big?
Ashley has learned a ton since she started just 2 months ago. And she learned it all from Cynthia Capers.
I brought you a baby quail, a newly hatched quail so you could see it.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
I just hatched last night.
This is Cynthia's farm. It's her whole life. And Ashley, her protege, she's beginning to understand that.
I've always wanted to do the farm life. Like, I've always been like, this seems really cool. And like, she's been like, do you still like it? There are days where she can see where I'm like kind of discouraged or something. And she'll be like, how do you feel about seeing all the things that have come to fruition since you started working here? And I was like, yeah, because like, even after I first started coming, like the eggs started flowing like gold, and I was like, whoa. And she was like, yeah, that's because you've been like keeping them on a consistent schedule and making sure they have clean water. That's actually really cool to see, like how even just you being consistent with something, like what can come out of it. It's helped me, mentally, and it's helped me emotionally because it's just the discipline that comes with it.
Cynthia Capers joins us now. Cynthia, welcome to This Is Nashville.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well. So glad to have you with us. So tell me, how did you come to farming? Like, was this a lifelong dream of yours?
No, it was not. I'm an inner city girl from Chicago, so there was no dream of farming so much except for just wanting to be around these little cute baby chicks that I saw at the Lincoln Park Zoo back in the day when my mom was taking me there. So I don't really have that farm life where I actually grew up on a farm or came to visit a farm. None of that ever occurred. I was the inner city girl that, they took us kids that were in the poverty-stricken neighborhoods to farms to give us an idea of what it was to be on a farm. That's all. That's the only exposure I ever had.
What did you do before you became a farmer?
Well, I am a former trauma nurse, so and a clinical researcher. So that's what I've been doing. I would say I've been a nurse about 30 years. I've worked in research about 22 years. And I started raising the birds about 20 years ago and became a full farmer about 5 years ago.
So trauma,
kind of complicated.
Yeah, I mean, trauma nurse to farmer, that's a big career change. Tell me, what was that like? What was that like for you and your family when you made that decision?
Well, I don't think, first of all, I didn't really consult anybody, because when I do things, I don't always consult people. I do what I'm going to do. And the decision to become a farmer full time was based on just going for it, because otherwise I felt like, you can live your life with a lot of regret, and the goal is to reduce regret. And I needed to see what it would be like to take it to a different level and not be a hobby farmer, to take it to a full farm.
Now, Henicity Farm, how did you find that property?
I moved here about 20 years ago under duress. I was having some things going on in my personal life. And I came out and the house was, I think there were bats living underneath the deck, and it was a pretty hectic place. It had been not lived in. But when I walked out in the property, like toward the back of the property, where all the trees and the beauty, I said, I think I need to be here. And then by, I would say, intervention from, the ancestors came through, and the property was going to be sold as part of an estate. And the executor of the estate decided to hold the property until I was able to buy it.
Hmm. Now you mentioned the ancestors. Do you have farmers in your lineage?
It's interesting. I didn't know anything about it because my city family and my family has never spoken about post-slavery or any of the things about their Southern roots, nothing. I've never heard a thing. It wasn't until I did some family tree lookup for my mom's 75th birthday that I saw all the farmers on the 1800s census. Mm-hmm. And then I can't tell you, it was just, I felt like, okay, so they're here on this census. And I felt like they came and said, we've been waiting for somebody to find us. We've been waiting for you.
So you're bringing the family legacy back. That's from the ancestors.
That's from the ancestors.
What about your contemporary family? Like, do they help out? Do they come to the farm and help you out?
No, they do not. Unfortunately, I don't have them here at the farm. And it's not because I don't want to. Sometimes I really don't understand, but then I guess I do. And some I do and some I don't, is that they haven't embraced the farm. And the farm is something that maybe it's too much for a city person because when they come out, they've just, the land and just the whole thing is such an unusual occurrence. Mm. I don't think they even get what it could be for them,
Mm-hmm. So you raise poultry.
I do.
Now, you mentioned how you took that trip as a kid in Chicago and you fell in love with the chicks. What else made you decide to raise birds?
It's just, I would say that knowing that I was in control of my food source, I'm a major egg eater, love breakfast food. And I knew that if I had chickens, laying birds, they would be laying eggs. I could have eggs at a whim. I believe that poultry brings you this egg, and the egg is this protein-packed essence that could reduce hunger. It's a simple food, but it's a powerful food. It's an easy food. They're doing all the work. You keep them happy. I just don't think that we realize how important having this protein packed egg and what it could do for so many people that are hungry. Just think about it. It's already covered up. It can be packaged and kept cool or not if it's a fresh egg. And we could be feeding, I don't know, how many people with just that.
Mm-hmm. Now, we got to hear a little bit earlier, but describe a typical day on the farm for us.
Oh, typical day. Wow, how much time do you all have? Ooh, typical day. Typical day. Okay.
What time do you wake up?
Between 3 and 5 a.m.
Wow. Okay.
And I try to have that time for meditation, but I can't say that I may not send text messages between 3 and 5 a.m. I think people are probably getting them and going, what the hell's wrong with her, But that's when I'm, looking at messages and getting them done. And then I try to be outside, especially now, it's very hot, at 5, and feed and water, maybe find birds that are either died naturally. Hopefully I haven't had any predator attacks, checking fences, checking cages, gathering eggs, cleaning, throwing bedding. You just on and on. There's 1,000 things to do. There's never nothing to do. Maybe I've encountered a snake. It's, it got in the coop. Obviously that's got to go. Can't stay, right? Got to deal with that. Walking the dog. I'm training a livestock guardian dog, a Great Pyrenees, so that he will protect the property and keep some of these predators down, especially now that it's so hot. A lot of predators are coming for food, the easier food source. Everything likes chicken. Everything loves chicken. But I just don't have chickens. I have guineas and I have ducks and I have quail. I've got 35 different breeds of birds here. Pretty intense.
Wow, that does sound very intense. Thanks for tuning in to this rebroadcast of our 2022 episode all about community gardens. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation, so stay with us. This is Nashville.
Funding for This is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Music City Prep Clinic, Nashville-based provider for PrEP and offering comprehensive sexual health services in an environment designed to be safe, professional, and shame-free. Learn more at musiccityprep.org.
I'm Khalil Ekolona, and this is Nashville. This hour, we're bringing you a rebroadcast of our 2022 episode all about community gardens and farms. We may live in an urban metropolis, but there are several community gardens in our town. My next guest founded one. It's a market garden program called Growing Together, a project of the Nashville Food Project. Lauren Bailey is the director of garden outreach and engagement for the Nashville Food Project. Lauren, welcome to This is Nashville.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. So what was behind the idea for the program that you got help with from the Center for Refugees and Immigrants of Tennessee?
I mean, really the idea behind it was to create connection and pathways for people to have access to land and access to resources. Because many people that I came in contact with, they had very strong cultural ties to tending the land and to agriculture. And so that was kind of the idea behind it, is like, how do we create, when I was working in those two spaces, there were gaps that like people weren't able to access land and resources. And so the program itself was really designed to start to try to experiment with what that would look like.
How does the program work exactly?
Well, right now, we're entering, I guess, the farm officially started in 2015. And so we're entering, the 8th year. And we have some farmers who have been with the program since the very beginning. and some who we have an apprenticeship program where new farmers are paired with existing farmers to kind of learn about growing food and in a culturally sort of relevant context. So farmers, they're ready to go in early March, growing food, and the food project supports by providing training and by providing market support. And the food projects also has this goal of supporting food getting out in the community. And so we have some produce distribution through community partners, like I think Another Guest Trap Gardens, and through other community partners like Turk and Nashville Cares. And they're getting some of this food that's grown by the Growing Together farmers out into the community. And the farmers also have a CSA. And then if there's extra capacity, it also is sold sometimes to restaurants.
Mm-hmm. Now, our intern, Doreen Chernecki, went out to meet some of the farmers in person in preparation for the show, since no farmers were able to join us live. One she met was Roy, a refugee from Myanmar who's been farming there for 3 years. That's a pretty long time. Is that typical?
Yes. I think we're at the point now where we have a pretty core group of people who've been with the program for a while. So I think Roy is probably the newest at 3 years, and then the rest, we've had a couple of farmers who've been there since the very beginning.
You've worked closely with people in the community and refugees, sharing skills and tips. What have you learned that have enhanced your skills and abilities?
Well, I think on the non-growing side of things, I have learned a lot just about being open to exploring new ways of doing things and new ways of thinking about things. And that's really, I think, truly transformed my worldview. But in the practical sense of growing food, I witness a lot of intercropping. So farmers grow, different crops together in the same space. And that's something that I hadn't quite witnessed in my other experiences. And I think the other thing that I really appreciate about what I've witnessed is just this ability and capacity to try new things and experiment, and that there's not one prescriptive way of farming, but that we're kind of all practitioners, and we can all learn from each other.
I want to hear more about the people that you work with. Tell us some more about the farmers who are there in the program.
Yes. Well, I think I encourage everyone to, seek out some of the resources we have, like our Growing Together Instagram, to kind of get to know farmers in those ways. But I think I've been just truly humbled by the individuals and the families' dedication to growing food, and the incredible joy and pleasure that they take in tending to the land and in growing just incredible food for the community. I think some of the farmers are my parents' age, and so I think a lot about what this program and what these individuals mean to our community, and what just what value and how much we can learn from who they are and how they impact our city.
Poultry farmer Cynthia Capers is still with us. There's a mentality of this, whether you're running a local farm or tending a community garden. It's about taking care of your own. What does feeding your community, however you define that community, what does that mean to you, Cynthia?
Feeding my community means ensuring that no one is hungry. That nobody has any issues with obtaining food. It shouldn't be a huge process. It should be readily available, readily accessible. It should be nutritious, healthy. I grew up going to school hungry and being in class all day and hungry. And I hear that's still happening. And that's a major issue for a country as potent as supposedly we are. And so to me, that shouldn't even be part of our world at all. Not here. So feeding my community is ensuring that everyone has equal access to the best food they can.
Lauren, how does that resonate with you?
I'm over here shaking my head. Yes, I think this, the idea that people don't have what they need to nourish their bodies or souls, like it's unfathomable that we still exist in this, this situation. And what I have seen is like we have incredible opportunity to be creative in how we address these inequities of land and food access. And, it's not like we don't have potential land in Nashville. In 2017, there was a food system assessment that named that in our city, we have over 108,000 acres zoned for agricultural use. And that's just the ones that are already zoned for agricultural use. Growing Together is growing on an urban lot in behind a church. Like there's so many different spaces that we could be, that could be utilized to come up with creative solutions so that people have what they need in order to meet their needs.
Cynthia, after 20 years of doing this, why are you keeping at it? Why do you keep at it?
I ask myself that every morning when I come out and I deal with those birds and what it means, because it's tough. It's a manual labor. Raising poultry is a livestock, so it's not the same as doing a produce. You have to, your vacations and your time off is limited to none. And, but, as a trauma nurse, I gave back to a certain group of people and situations. In this way, I'm giving back. It's maybe my life was supposed to be doing just that. It's humbling, and it's beautiful, and it's tough, and it's hard, and it's crazy, and there's so many things, but there's still joy for me. Mm-hmm. So that's why I continue to do it.
So what are your hopes for how we can sustain ourselves, whether with shopping local through farms like yours or leaning on our neighborhood community gardens?
My hope is that farmers get the respect that they're due, that they are also heroes to our world. Without them, you wouldn't have. I am hopeful that we have funding that comes to farmers that is necessary for them to be sustained, and that it's not as difficult as it can be to get things, programs or monies toward them. I am hopeful that when a student or a person says they want to become an agricultural science major, that they don't regret it, that we are pushing them to do that they know that they will find work and be able to live from the income that they get from being in agriculture. As you can tell, I'm very passionate about it because I see people making decisions away from it because they know they can't survive it. And that should not be.
That is farmer Cynthia Capers of Hennis City Farms in Pegram. She was joined by Lauren Bailey from the Nashville Food Project. Thanks to you both for being with us today. Thanks for tuning in to this rebroadcast of our episode from last year, all about community gardens and farms. When we come back, we'll learn more about their benefits for the public, so don't go away. This is Nashville. I'm Khalil Ekalona, and this is Nashville. Growing your own food and livestock is such a significant part of so many cultures all around the world. A lot of those cultures are represented right here in Nashville. The foods we grow and the way we grow them can vary, and the gardening itself can serve us in ways that extend beyond nourishing our bodies. I'd like to welcome my next guest. Vanderbilt professor Avery Dickens de Giron runs the Center for Latin American Studies. Welcome to This is Nashville.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
A pleasure to have you with us. So you study ethnobotany. Can you explain to us what that is?
Yeah, so ethnobotany is the study of the relationship between people and plants. And so what our garden focuses on is how people use plants as medicines and how they use plants as foods. It can also include using plants as shelter, dyes, and so on.
So it's this relationship between humans and plants and all the ways we can help each other, right?
Exactly.
So what's the significance of the Latin American expression of ethnobotany?
So the Latin American, well, our garden here at Vanderbilt, we have about 50 plants that are native to Latin America. And almost all of them that we have in the garden are used for different medicinal purposes. They're used for culinary purposes. And so we try to share that knowledge that the plants bring to talk about a variety of topics that we can use here on campus with our students and faculty at Vanderbilt, but we also have a large public engagement program and do workshops that feature the plants for teachers in Metro Nashville Public Schools.
Now, you were talking about this garden. It's the Latin American Botanical Garden at Vanderbilt. This sounds absolutely amazing. Can you tell us more about it?
We founded it in 2017, and so this is its sixth summer. It's in bloom from June to October, and each year we're trying to essentially expand it and improve upon it, both as an educational resource and just its infrastructure. So, visitors can come and, learn the scientific name of the plant, learn the common name of the plant, where the plant grows geographically in Latin America, and then we have QR codes that will be on these nameplates so that you can use your phone to link up to our database and learn more about the plants.
Now, you mentioned that you all are growing 50 species of plants native to Latin America. Can you tell me, what are some of those plants?
Yeah, I'd love to. So it's 50 species. It's one of those things when you were talking previously with your guest, one of the things, that's really interesting working in a garden is it's part of nature and it really evolves over time. So we have some come and some go. But one of the ones that I can share with you that's probably not familiar to people is called, the scientific name of the plant is Acmella oleracea. And this is a plant that's native to Brazil, to the Amazonian region. And in English, we'll call it the toothache plant or buzz buttons. The local name of it is jumbo. And it's got these really pretty yellow flowers that grow in these ball-shaped clusters. And if you take a pinch of the flowers and put them on the inside of your mouth, it'll make your gums go numb. And so hence the name toothache plant. It serves as a numbing sort of plant and is used to treat toothache. It can be effective against sore throats. The plant can also be eaten, but this is the one that's really fun to share with our younger students. This morning, I was giving a tour to 5th and 6th graders, and they thought this was really fascinating and interesting, but it shows how plants can be effective medicines for primary sorts of care.
You mentioned that public engagement is a part of this concept. Would you say it's a community garden?
Yeah, it's a community garden, I would say, in a different sense. So it's not a community garden where we have different people, planting plants and harvesting them. But certainly it is a community garden in the sense that we want people to come experience the garden. We want people to come learn about the plants. We want people to share the knowledge that they have from their cultures with others about these plants. So one thing that's been very interesting for me I have a lot of high school students that come tour the garden either through their schools or through programs at Vanderbilt that are partnerships with MMPS. And, several of the students that come through will recognize some of the plants that their families are growing in their homes or that family members use in cooking. And so generally these are students of Latin American heritage or from Latin America that recognize these plants. And so I always learn, from them, from their stories and their individual experiences. It really teaches me more about the plants every year. Every time I give a tour, I learn something, as well as people sharing their different perspectives of what they see or what they smell of the different plants. So in that way, yes, it's a community garden and something that we certainly want people to come check out and experience.
My next guest is the pioneer in community gardens. Donald Frost is the site manager for Trap Garden. Don, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So what's the idea behind Trap Garden?
So, the idea behind Trap Garden is really to help build, sustain, and empower food-sensitive communities by assisting with the creation of community gardens and promotion of healthy eating and lifestyles.
So what sets it apart?
So what sets it apart as Trap Garden is our ability to engage with the community. A lot of the ways that we choose to engage with the community is doing surveys and finding information about the community to service that, and also making the excitement about the events, right? We're going to bring our big truck that we have coming out to the communities with a great opportunity for teammates and people to engage with the truck and have those experiences. And also the opportunities that we bring when it comes with our community engagement when it deals with growing the foods that make sense in those communities. So after those surveys come through, we make sure that we assess the food that's going to be grown in those communities to make sure they're contributing to those communities.
I saw you nodding along as Avery was talking about public engagement. Is that a big part of this for you?
It is a huge part of our organization. So in the past, we normally hosted community garden centers throughout Nashville, focusing on some of those points of those food deserts in North Nashville and South Nashville. So we had places and locations for community members to not only access places to grow their own food or also engage with others to learn about food, and also those other teammates, Trap Garden teammates that come out to share their experiences. Post-pandemic, we started taking this excitement out to the community, right? Going to those different locations to enhance the garden communities that we have here in Nashville.
Now, you mentioned North Nashville and South Nashville as being food deserts, and we know that there are a lot of Nashvillians who are experiencing food insecurity. What areas in the city that are really affected the most?
So as of 2020, we have 4 major areas in Nashville that have been identified as food deserts. Those areas are North Nashville, East Nashville, Edge Hill, and South Nashville.
Now, how can community gardens ameliorate some of the problems of food insecurity?
A lot of ways, by sharing information and continuing to share the access. One thing that we do with Trap Garden, we have a garden locator, a community garden locator. So we partner with a lot of the community gardens that we have here in Nashville because it's just not about our location, right? We have a place where you can come to trapgarden.org, log in, and look up what community gardens in your area, and also get a chance to access food that may be a little bit closer to you, and also opportunities that may be closer to you as well.
I think it's pretty clear that community gardens alone can't fix this problem. What would you like to see from the city to support community gardens? Don?
Well, continue to enhance the infrastructure that we have with community gardens, creating more spaces where we can have land opportunities for community gardens, for 501(c)(3)s and nonprofits to operate, and also continue to partner what we have with a lot of our local businesses. I think that partnership with the community and some of our local businesses has really been a real tag team combination for us to be successful.
Okay, now, Avery, you were talking about the plants and herbs that provide medicinal benefits. What was the reaction of the people as they learn what a garden can provide to them?
Oh, I think people are just fascinated by all of the different uses of plants. Again, I talk to kids, a lot, give tours to them, and they think on way different, way out of the box, right? How plants can be used. And I think it's something that people generally are very open to. It's something that, it's part of our culture, using teas to alleviate colds and so on, but it just takes it to another level of plants have so many different uses, and the different foods, the different fruits, the different taste of the herbs that can be used. I'm always surprised by how willing and adventurous people are to try things and smell things that they haven't experienced before. And they generally like it. Most of the things that we have in this particular garden are things that you would want to taste. So I think it really encourages openness, which I think is a wonderful thing in our increasingly diverse city.
Don, do people make medicinal use out of what they grow at the Trap Garden?
There's definitely a lot of anti-inflammatory items that are available to grow in the garden, especially what we talked a little bit earlier, this cultural experience of tea, right? One of my earlier experiments in the garden was trying to grow my own tea out there and started with a little bit of mint, and the mint goes a long way for a lot of health benefits.
Yeah. Have you found more people are interested in what Trap Garden and other community gardens are providing?
Yes, it's one of those great tools, again, with the Garden Locator app. We found that other locations have reached out to us to kind of partner and engage. And so August 11th, we're going to have an event at the Magruder Garden Center, right? We're going to have a partnership there. And so that is also talking about the infrastructure of Trap Garden, our community feel and approach on how people can connect with us so we can actually enhance the gardening community as a whole.
We heard from farmer Cynthia Capers earlier about this being a labor of love. So what drew you to this?
I wanted to change the way I was eating. It's one of those opportunities to where I was in the Kroger grocery store and I wanted to change the way I was eating. I think I was looking at cherry tomatoes or something like that. And during that time, it was quite costly to maintain a healthy diet for me. And I was walking out of the store and I saw some seed packets and I was like, there's like $1.38. I can possibly grow my own food. Mm-hmm. And so from there, I went to social media. Took a picture, talked about my journey, and they connected me with Rob Horton, who runs Trap Garden. And Rob was that perfect partner that you would ask for. Because I started off as a community member, partnered with Rob and Kenita Hutchinson, and we were able to form together to get educated, secure spaces, and also share information with our community. But the best part about it is creating those future leaders with a lot of our programs that we have with our local elementary schools here in Davidson County.
Now, Avery, how would you, we have like about a minute left. How would you like to see community gardens expand?
Yeah, I think just going back to what Donald was saying, just more space, having more spaces dedicated to gardens in the city is probably, the starting point, and funding and people engaged in them to maintain them. Because as we've all noticed, this is a lot of work. It goes on early in the morning. It's been so dry lately. We've all, I'm sure, been spending a lot of time watering the plants. And so I think it starts with space.
Don, what do you want to see?
I think on the other side of space and just talking through that labor of love of watering your garden in the summertime, some way for we can do some water conservation, right? So we can have a way for these local gardens to have access to water, to actually water the food that we have in the communities. In my experiences, as we work with other garden communities, sometimes that's a challenge. Once you do secure the space, to maintain the space and then keep it watered.
I want to thank you both so much for being with us. That is Donald Frost, the site manager for Trap Garden, and Professor Avery Dickens de Giron, Executive Director of the Center for Latin American Studies at Vanderbilt. Thanks to you both for being with us today. And thanks to you for tuning in this hour. Question for you. Did some of your plants die during the hard freeze this winter? Tomorrow, we're bringing you a brand new episode all about our local trees and shrubs. This is Nashville is a production of WPLN News and Nashville Public Radio. Our show has only been possible because of your support. We're in the midst of our Sprint Fund Drive. We need you to step up and make your donation now at thisisnashville.org. And while you're there, you can listen back to all of our episodes. Today's episode was produced by Doreen Chernecki. Our senior producer is Steve Harouche. Our digital lead is Anna Gallegos-Cannon. Michaela Elias is our technical director. Our executive producer is Andrea Tuthope. The masterminds behind our theme music are LaRange and Namir Blade. The conversation doesn't end here. Tweet us at This Is Nashville. Find us on Facebook and Instagram and tell us what you want from our show by filling out our quick survey online. This is Nashville. I'm Khalil Ekolona. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody. And be good to each other.